with the solar radiation from the sun, evaporating water. It also happens from the land surface, also transpiration, right? That comes, and then we have precipitation in different forms: snow, rain, hail. Then we have runoff and infiltration from the ground here, and then back again. This was a big cycle, right? So this is our big picture of the cycle. It's very simple, except when we take this concept and we put it to reality, it all of a sudden gets more complicated, right? This one here, very simple. Yeah, evaporation, condensation, precipitation, collection, right? It's this nice simple thing. But then in reality, it's like, okay, now we have built reservoirs, and now we divert water, and now we use the water, we pump the water, we have wastewater, we do farming, right? It's a much more complicated picture, right? And it depends when we do water counting, it depends on which part of this picture we're interested in. Yeah? Are we interested in maybe accounts for a city? Maybe not very common. Maybe for irrigation, that's common. Maybe for the entire watershed, that's common, right? So for example, let's take a look, before we get to that, let's, again, this idea of conservation of mass. This is simple, another simple concept. If our deposits, right, equal our withdrawals, so this is the same amount, say 110, 110, yeah? So does my bank go up or down or stay the same? Simple question. Does my bank account go up or down or stay the same? If I have 100 coming in and 100 going out, what happens? It stays the same. Yeah. Okay. What if all of a sudden I say, boy, I saw this really nice car, man, it's a Lamborghini, something. I don't know what's a nice car. What's the best car in the car people want? Mercedes-Benz, BMW. What do people like in New York? What's your favorite car? Just if you could have any car in the world, what would you have? Mercedes? Yeah? Okay. So you say, I'd like to buy a Mercedes-Benz. Yeah? So all of a sudden, your withdrawals, they go up. You have to pay every month for the Mercedes. Yeah? But you have the same job. Same job. Yeah? So what happens to your bank account now? Yes. Right? So now, yeah. Yes. Oh. Right? So what do we need to do? If we want, this is bad. Empty bank is bad, right? So what do we need to do? We either need to sell our Mercedes, right? So let's do that. So we sell the Mercedes. Now we ride our bike. Yeah? So our expenses are down. So what happens to our bank account now? Okay, it can slowly refill, right? Okay? And then, okay, we're not. Or we can say, I really like my Mercedes. I want my Mercedes. But I'm going to work 10 jobs, 10 different jobs. So I make a lot of money, right? And in that case, I can also fill up my account, right? So this is the simple example of this equation. So we take this concept and we make a simple equation for it, right? And this is called the conservation of mass. I think maybe you've all seen it before, right? So the inflow has to equal the outflow plus the change in storage. So the delta just means change. Yeah? Have you guys, who's used this equation before? Really? Okay. This will be a common thing apparently. Every 10 minutes we'll have to plug that computer. Okay. So this is the conservation of mass, and we already talked about examples of inflow, right? Precipitation, maybe stream flow, maybe melting. Outflows, maybe it could be evapotranspiration, it could be in the stream or groundwater, and then change in storage. Does anybody remember the 4 primary ways that storage changes? There was 4 we talked about. Do you remember? Yeah.
Glacier.
Yeah, and
Final resist.
it's okay. usually like surface water storage, like a reservoir. Yeah? So a reservoir would be, okay? So this is just a fundamental law. You can't either make or destroy water. Okay, it can change forms, it can move around, but the inflow has to equal the outflow plus the change in storage. It's just this is the fundamental reality of the water balance. Okay, and again, we listed out what these inflows are. So the inflows are these types of things, outflows, changes in storage. So we've already done this. We've already looked at these different items. Okay. So I'm going to skip through this. We already did this. Okay. The difference, and Puspa has said this, the difference in water accounting, right, is that when we go to the bank, right, with our deposit, we know exactly how much money we're depositing. It's, 137,273, right? Exactly. And we give it to them. Yeah? When we take the money out, we know exactly, and we count to make sure that the bank gives us the right amount, right? Yeah? In water, though, we don't know. We don't know what the outflow really is. We don't know what the inflow really is. There's just question marks everywhere. Very difficult. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about how do we actually measure these things, right? And then how do we know how big the bank is, right? How big is our opportunity to change storage, okay? So that's kind of that's an important kind of background. Now, when we do a water balance, there's two major steps to the process, okay? So we have step one, and then we have step two. Step one is we have to specify the domain. We talked about domain already, right? Remember that word, domain? Now, domain has both a spatial component and a temporal component, okay? So can we think about something simple? Can we do a water balance for my water bottle here, okay? Yeah? So I'm going to put it right here. We'll look at it. So my spatial domain, right? If I'm going to do a water balance for this water bottle, is this entire volume inside, okay? Now, if I was like a bird looking at this water bottle, what would I see from the top? I just see a circle, right? Just like this circular thing. Now, when you're specifying a domain, it has to be three-dimensional. So what I mean by that is like, if I have a field that's maybe growing rice, yeah? And I say, I want to do a water balance on this rice field. I have to specify not only the field area, but vertically. Okay? So what are my choices vertically? How far down could I go with the rice field? I could say maybe, I want to do a water balance of just the rice plant. So not include the soil, so just the plant. Or maybe I want to include the root zone. Or maybe I want to include the whole groundwater system. You see? So it's not just the area, it's also the vertical dimension that's important, okay? So what area are you interested in? Characterizing the vertical dimension is key, okay? If you don't specify this, you can end up with sort of bad results. Now, if we continue thinking about this, well, we'll get there. Okay, so back to my water bottle. So my domain is vertically, it's the whole thing, and it's just this circle from the area, okay? Now the timing now is the second thing. So we have to say the temporal domain, right? So am I interested in the next minute? Or maybe 1 minute ago is what I'm interested in? Or maybe 1 hour, maybe 1 day? That's important, right? For instance, You know, if I'm interested in just in the next minute, right, I can drink some water. Okay, so what just happened? What just happened? So, yeah, so we had an outflow, right, and the change in storage, right, in this domain over that 1 minute period, right. Now, what if the domain was my water bottle and me? Okay, so now the domain is the water bottle and me. Was there a change in storage? Okay, so
如果我掉冷水，就会消化。
okay, no, right? So if it's just the bottle, there was a change. It went down. But if it's me and the bottle, it just moved places, but there's no change in storage. Yeah, it was inside the domain, right? Okay, so that's really important, and we'll look at examples in terms of, but that's an example of when you change the spatial domain, it changes the answer of your water balance, right? And then temporally, this is very important. Typically, we do water balance or water counting on a monthly time scale. So 1 month at a time. So it's not a real-time operational tool. Like I think you shared that you do hydrodynamic modeling for flood inundation. Water accounting is something quite different than that. It's not like a every minute or every 5 minutes or every hour type of analysis. It's usually over about a month, maybe weekly, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month. That's typical. Now, once you define your domain in space and time, then you have to define the fluxes and the changes in storage. Okay? So what do I mean by flux? What is a flux? Say it again. Okay. Okay. That's a great definition of a flux, kind of in a more of a physics sense. And to kind of build on that, flux in water counting means when water crosses your domain boundary. It's when it goes from inside to outside, or when it goes from outside to inside. That's a flux. If water, okay, so can we think about the example again? When I drank the water, if this is my domain, was there a flux? No, if just this is my domain.
ရေဘူးပဲဆိုရင်ရေတောက်လိုက်စီးဆင်းမှုရှိတယ်ရှိတာဟုတ်ရှိတယ် Yes or no
Yes. Because water went from in the bottle to outside the bottle. That's a flux, right? But if the domain is the bottle and me, was there a flux when I drank? No. It just kind of moved from one place to another within the domain. Okay. So this is really important again. And then there's changes in storage. Now, a change in storage means it has to be a change in storage in your domain. It's not something that happens outside your domain. It's only in your domain, right? Okay. So let's look at a couple of examples of this and make some pictures here. Okay. So here's our guy. So we are all this person. I'm sorry the skin color is not right, but this represents all of humanity. We're looking at our water, and we say, okay, I'm interested in this field right here. Okay? Can we take this field and we make a cut through it and we look at it from the side? So this is a field. What are the two most important things in terms of specifying our domain? There's two parts of a domain, remember? There's the spatial part of the domain and the temporal part. Yeah? Okay, so in space, where do we want our domain to be? What do we want it to be? And I kind of chose this, so I'll show you. This is going to be our spatial domain. So we're including the crop, maybe this is rice, and what? Let's say this is the root zone. Okay? So this is our spatial domain. Yeah? And then what are we missing now? We need our temporal domain. So let's say, okay, this last month, March of 2019. Okay? So we have our domain specified. both spatially, right, and temporally. Now I've shown it like this to show the vertical dimension, but we also need to know the horizontal dimension, right? So in this case, it's going to be that whole field, including the root zone, right? Okay. So now our job to do a water balance here is to identify the fluxes and changes in storage. So can we think through what are the fluxes for this field? What can be fluxes? Okay, so the rain comes from outside the domain, and some of it ends up inside the domain. Is that a flux, or is it a flux? If the rain goes from outside to inside, is that a flux? Yes. Yes. Okay. So precipitation is a flux. Yeah. What else could we have? What other fluxes could we have? Okay. So if we have evaporation, say from the soil here. Okay. Yeah, and then maybe the crops are transpiring. Yeah, so those are fluxes. Good. Okay. This is a funny word. I think you all know it. But when we have evaporation and transpiration, what do we call it? Yeah. Oh, that's a terrible word. But yes. And then when we get tired of saying evapotranspiration, what do we call it? We call it something short. We call it ET. ET. Yeah. ET is going home. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So those are some fluxes. Now that's fluxes happening up here, right? Are there fluxes happening over here, maybe, or maybe down here? Yeah. So if it rains really, really hard, yeah. So we have tons of rain, and our root zone fills up. It's full. What happens to the rain now? Maybe some of it, yeah. And so if it goes from the root zone down towards the groundwater, is that a flux? This is a flux now. Percolation, right? Deep percolation. Yeah. That's a flux. Okay. But what about this way? Maybe this way. Yeah. If this is March, right, and it's green, how is this rice field? Maybe it's wheat. How is wheat green in March? It doesn't rain in March here very much, right? So what are we doing? Yeah, so we're bringing in water in terms of a delivery, right? So that's also a flux, right? When it goes from the canal onto my field, that's a flux, right? If it stays in the canal and goes by my field, it doesn't matter because it's outside of my domain. It doesn't matter. But if it's in the canal and I divert it onto my field, that's a flux, okay? So, and then what about over here? Yeah, if I put on too much water, more than I need, and it saturates, then maybe I have some tailwater or drainage. And do you say tailwater? No, is that a term? Maybe drainage, no? So when you irrigate and you have water at the end of the field, you call it drainage. Yeah? Okay. We call it tailwater, but we'll call it drainage. Okay. So here we go. So here's our deliveries, right? That's a flux. We have I gave it away. We missed one, right? So we have this, right? This is called percolation. But we can also, we could be pumping groundwater, right? So these are the main fluxes. So we have a delivery, pumping, outflows, deep percolation, precipitation, and ET, right? And ET stands for evapotranspiration. I have a colleague at Delft University of Technology who says, just call it evaporation. It's such a dumb term, evapotranspiration. But anyway, we'll call it ET for now. But we'll talk more about that. Okay. So those are those fluxes or changes in storage? Which one are they? Are these arrows fluxes or changes in storage? Notice these arrows, they go from inside to outside. Can we vote.
Yes, yes. So flex များထောက်တာ
Yeah. Okay.
and flex များဘယ်နဲ့ထောက်ကြလဲဒီခါလေးကြည့်ပေးရ flex များဘယ်နဲ့ထောက် Okay and အဲ့ဒီ storage မှာညာနဲ့ထောက်ပါဒါတော့ပြလို့ရတယ်ဘာမှထောက်လို့ဒီလို
People are voting for two, I think.
No. As in like flex with your hand and storage by hand.
Okay. Oh, I see. I see.
Some people are not raising anything.
Yeah, some people are. Yeah. That's what happens in democracy. Some people
Yeah.
don't vote.
Yeah.
It's okay. So, do we remember the definition of flux from behind, from the last slide? A flux is when water comes in or out of our domain. Okay? So this red line here is a domain. Look, spatial domain. And these arrows, I've drawn them so they go in to out, out to in, out to in. So are these fluxes or changes in storage? These are flux. Yeah? Okay? So these are all examples of water coming from outside to inside. Now, each of these fluxes can cause changes in storage. Okay? But these flows in themselves, if we were to measure the drainage from the field, that's a flux. Yeah. If we were to measure, say we put a rain gauge in the field, we measured the rain for March, that would be the flux, the rainfall flux, precipitation flux. Okay? So then what are the changes in storage now for this picture? How does storage change? I'll give you. Yeah.
So flex တွေတော့တွေ့သွားပြီအဝင်အတွက်စီးစင်းတဲ့အောင်ပေါ့ storage မှာတော့ပြောင်းလဲတဲ့ဥစ္စာဘာလို့ရှိသွားလဲ
And to give an example, let's consider that, let's say February 28th, I irrigated my field. Okay, February 28th, I put a lot of water on, and I put lots of water here. Yeah. And for all of March, it did not rain, and I did not have any deliveries, and I did not pump any groundwater, okay? For all of March. So this goes away, this one goes away. But my crops are still green. So if my crops are green, what is happening here? There's still ETV, yeah? So where is that water coming from? Is coming from a change in storage because of a change in soil moisture, right? So where is my change in storage in this domain? What is my change in storage? Because there's no reservoir. I don't have a lake here. I don't have snow. I'm not pumping groundwater. So what's the other option? It has to be soil moisture, right? So there's sort of like a little reservoir here, right, in our soil moisture. And that ET is coming from changes in storage in my soil moisture, right? So I think we've done it, right? We've identified the fluxes, right? These are the possible fluxes. And the change in storage in this case, for this domain, is only one thing. Just the change in storage in the root streams, okay? So this is how you start the water account. So I chose a domain, that field. I specified the vertical component of the domain. I specified the time for the domain. And then once I defined my domain, I got to work with the fluxes and the changes in storage. Okay? Questions?
Yeah. အဲ့တော့ဒါဟိုကတော့ပြန်ပြီးတော့ summarize ပြန်စုလာပြီးတော့အားလုံးရလာပြီ။တရားနာတာတော့နော်။ဒီရှင်းပါထပ်ပြောပြအောင်။ဒါတော့တစ်ခေါက်ထပ်ပြောလိုက်တော့ပြောနေလို့ပြောရအောင်။ဟုတ်။ဒါမှမဟုတ်တကယ်ဟိုမှာတက်တိုင်းလို့ဆိုတဲ့ဥစ္စာပါ။အရေးကြီးဆုံးပါ။ domain တွေကတစ်ခု data တစ်ခုသတ်မှတ်ဘယ်လိုသတ်မှတ်မလဲ။တကယ်တော့3D နဲ့သတ်မှတ်။အဲ3D ထဲမှာပြည်တော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီလေဝင်းတွေထဲမှာအများနဲ့အများနဲ့ထားတယ်။ net ကိုပါ။ဒါရ။အဲ့ဒါကိုဒီပေါ်ထည့်ပါအဲ့ဒါပါပြီ။ပြုလုပ်ရတဲ့အချိန်မှာဒီနေရာတစ်ခုသတ်မှတ်ပြီးသွားလို့ဆိုတော့ဘယ်နေရာသွားမလဲ။အဝင်နဲ့အထွက်ကိုတိုင်းထွာထ ချိန်ပြီးဒီမှာဘူးအဝင်နေဥကြတာပြီးတော့ဒီသွေးလာလားမိုးရွာကြတာလားဒီနောက်ဒီကနေဒီကိုထုတ်ပြရလားဒါပြီးတော့ပြီးရတဲ့အခါထပ်နေနေလည်းပဲအဝိဇ္ဇာဖတ်သွားမှာလားကိုယ်တွေလို့စီးထွက်သွားမှာလားဒီတော့စိတ်ဝင်သွားမှာအဲ့ဒါကိုတိုင်းပြီးတော့အဲ့ဒါကိုတိုင်းပြီးတဲ့အချိန်ထဲမှာပဲဒီပုံတော်သားတဲ့ဥစ္စာပမာဏပြောင်းလဲဘယ်လိုရှိတယ်လဲဆိုတာပြန်တွေ့တော်တော်ပမာဏအနေနဲ့အခုဒီမှာကြည့်တဲ့အချိန်အားကြောင့်အချိန်ပါနေသွားပြီအဲ့ဒါကိုနမူနာပေးလို့ဒီဝိုင်လာပါတီကမိုးရွာရွာခဲ့တယ်ဒါပေမဲ့ရေသွင်းငယ်မဆလာတလာလို့ရေထပ်မသွင်းနေအောက်ကနေလည်းရေနဲ့တက်မလာဘူးအပေါ်မိုးလည်းမရွာဘာမှမရှိပဲနဲ့အပင်တွေကစိမ့်နေတယ်ဆိုတာသူ့ပါရုပ်ဆိုးနေတယ်လို့ဆိုတဲ့အရာရပါတယ်ရေဒီဒီဆိုင်းစားဆိုင်းပါကြတာဟုတ်တယ်ဒါကြောင့်အဲ့ဒါ
Good? Okay, okay. Great. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, so then the hard, okay, so this is the easy work of water fountains, right? We have conceptually determined the domain and the fluxes and changes in storage. Now the hard work is measuring them, right? So how do we actually get data for all these things? Wow, it's a lot of things to measure, right? Like for instance, how do we measure deep percolation? Can you see this? Can you see water going from the root zone to below it? You can't see it. How do you measure it? This is difficult. Do people measure the groundwater they pump in Myanmar? Does everybody have a meter on their pump? Yes? I don't think so. I don't think so. In California, everybody doesn't have a meter. Yeah? Where I come from, most pumps don't have meters. And I think maybe they don't have them here either. Maybe, I think your pumps have one. Maybe the IWUMD pumps do. But if I'm a person that just makes a well on my property, I don't put a meter on it. Yeah? So domestic pumps probably don't have it. Does everybody measure the rain on their fields? Does everybody have a rain gauge? Every farmer has their own rain gauge? No. I wish they did. I think every student in the whole world studying water should measure precipitation. Every student and every teacher and every person working. And if we all did that, we wouldn't complain about not having data, right? We'll talk about that more later. But this one, can we measure ET? Is that easy to measure? Can we see transpiration? Can we see evaporation? Whoa. We're going to spend like half a day talking about how you measure that. But it's not easy, right? And has anybody ever taken a flow measurement in a stream? Maybe a canal? Have you ever measured the flow in a canal? Anybody? I spent like 8 years of my life doing this. Yeah? Standing in the water, measuring the velocity, measure the area, build your rating curve. Anybody? Yeah. Yeah? Have you guys told people to do that, or have you done it? Has anybody taken a discharge measurement? Anybody? Oh, they're all the bosses. Okay. Okay. So anyways, these are all hard to measure, right? And if we don't have good data for these question marks, are our water accounts good? If we have no data, can we do good water accounting? It's an important question.
ဆိုတော့ဒါလို့ကြာနေအခုဒီနေ့တစ်ခေါက်ပြန်ထုတ်ပြီးတော့အဝင်ရောအထက်ပေါ်တိုင်းပါရဘာနဲ့တိုင်းထွာတိုင်းထွာလို့ဆိုတာတိုင်းထွာတော့လေအကုန်လုံးဒီတော်များများဒီအမှန်ခက်ခဲတဲ့ဟာဘိုးရွာကြီးဘိုးကြီးကြီးကတိုင်းရအဲ့ဒါလည်းဒီတိုင်းလုံးမှရမယ်တတ်တယ်ပြီးတော့အဝင်လည်းတိုင်းလုံးမလွယ်ဘူးအထက်လည်းတခြားတိုင်းလုံးဖြစ်တယ်အဲ့ဒါတွေကိုတိုင်းပါဝါဒအကောက်ဒီစင်းပြုစုရဆိုတဲ့ဥစ္စာအဝင်ရောချက်ပေါ်တခြားတိုင်းပါကျွန်တော်ကြည့်ကြတယ်ဟုတ်ဟုတ်အဲ့ဒါကြည့်ကြ
Okay, so we finished the field, yeah? So maybe we do this, is this making sense? It's good? Good? Okay. Can we do another example? Can we do maybe the reservoir? Because we can change our domain, right? Our domain was here, right? But now let's move our domain to here, okay? So I have a picture of a reservoir in Myanmar. Does anybody know where this is? I got it from Google, like Puspa said. I don't know. I don't know where it's from. Here's the site. Here it's from Energy Economies of the Indian Times. I don't know. It's some reservoir in the upper Aowari, I would guess. Right? What's the name of a lake in the upper Aowari? It might not be.
Oh,
You just think of it.
okay,
This is Dr. This is Lake Tin. Yeah, the Tin Lake. Okay, Tin's Lake. This is Tin's Lake. He owns this lake. Okay? Doesn't matter. How does, what's our domain? Can we specify our domain? What should we have as our domain? Maybe, well, first of all, for our domain, what are the two important things for our domain? Spatial and temporal, right? And spatial, what's the hint? There's some hint. We have to spatially and yeah. So like maybe our domain horizontally is the surface of the lake, yeah. But then vertically, how do we want to go? Do we want to include the groundwater or just stop at the bottom of the reservoir? Okay, it depends. It depends on the questions we have, right? And we'll talk about that in a second. But, and then in time, we can choose a month. Let's say maybe March again, okay? So here's spatially, so let's say we're doing the whole lake, and let's say we want to include the groundwater system under the lake. We want to include that in our domain, okay? And then we're gonna say for, oh, okay, let's say for all of 2018. So step one is done. Domain is done. So what are the fluxes and what are the changes in storage? Okay, so we just start saying, what are they? What's a flux? Yeah, so we have P, we have precipitation. Yeah, so we have maybe maybe there's the Aowari flows in here, maybe the Aowari flows out here. Yeah. What else? What are we missing? Okay. So do we have transpiration here? No. Okay, so we just have evaporation, right? Okay, so if we include the groundwater system in our domain, we can't think about seepage, right? But what we can think about is groundwater coming in and groundwater going out, right? But if we make our domain stop at the bottom of the lake, then groundwater seepage would be a flux, right? At that point. So that's really important. Okay. So we have the river in and maybe groundwater in. The river out, maybe groundwater out. We have precipitation, evaporation, and the changes in storage. This is easy one. What is the change in storage here? Yeah. Right? There's no root zone, there's no soil moisture, there's no snow or ice. All that can happen is the water level can go up or down, which means that we have a change in storage in our reservoir, okay? So that's our question, a change in storage, okay? Now, again, these are all hard to measure. Can you measure groundwater in? You have to model that, right? We probably need to know something about the geology, about the hydraulic gradient, right? We need to know the saturated conductivity of the geologic media. Ooh, it gets complicated, right? We can try to estimate these things, okay? But at the end of the day, though, remember our mass balance, inflows have to equal outflows plus change in storage. Can we write that equation out? I think you need to write this. So on the left side of the equation, right, we can maybe do this. Okay, we're going to have inflows equal outflows plus change in storage. Do you want to write it? Or? Yeah. So on this picture, what are our inflows? So what's the left side of the equation? Yes, P. We can call this one why don't you use Q and then put SW. So Q and then little s. So this stands for flow of the surface volume, right? So QSW and then QGW. Okay, so those are our inflows. Yeah, our outflows are what? Yeah, so E. And then we have QSW. Yeah, and then groundwater, I think we need to add a subscription. Okay. Okay, and then we're missing one term here. So inflow equals outflow plus what? And what is our delta S? It's the actual amount of water, yeah, that's changing here, okay? So we can say, yeah. Now it's not, it's the water level change multiplied by the area, right? That gives us a volume. So we can't just take the water level change, you have to then multiply it by the area over which that change occurred, right? To get a volume. So, exactly. Okay, great. Okay, so there's our mass balance, right? Okay, good. So we already looked at this definition. So I'm going to skip this. This is again the academic definition. Just like Pushpa said, make up your own definition of this that makes sense to you. But this picture of the hydrologic cycle, right? What water accounting is all about is changing this into this picture. So this is maybe a new picture. Has anybody, other than the people that looked at the Molden paper we're going to read this afternoon, has anybody ever seen this diagram before? Is this new diagram? Yeah. So this is a way to visualize the water accounts. Okay? We're going to spend most of tomorrow and maybe sometime today in sort of what does this diagram mean? There's a lot happening. Don't try to learn it all right now, but the point of this slide is that we're going to take the conceptual picture of the water balance that we just talked about, and we're going to translate it. Like let's say this is in some language, we're going to translate it into the water accounting language. This is the process, the translation we're going to talk about, right? So how do we take this picture? We specify our domain in space and time. We identify the fluxes and changes in storage. And from that data, we're able to translate to this picture. Okay? I'm just going to stop there. If this is confusing, that's good. Because we're going to spend a lot of time talking about this. Okay. Yeah. So I think I'm gonna end there. Does anybody have questions about this? This is the process of starting the water balance. Okay. Should we do a Kahoot? It's okay? Kahoot? If you have any questions about how to do Kahoot, just raise your hand and Todd or myself can help. Looks like we're really quick this time. Yeah. Like a shot, yeah. Good? All right. Maybe just go make sure you go to kahoot.it. So just instead of .com. Put, Okay. Let's say we'll start about 20 or 30 seconds here. We're at 2/3 of the people. Okay, good. 23. Get to 25. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, write down the number if you want to play and you're not logged on, just make sure to write that down. Okay, we're at 25, here we go. Okay, the contents of this Kahoot are what we just covered. So it's the process of doing a water box, okay? Water captain can be helpful for which of the following? This was back to Puspa's talk before. Oh, yeah, sorry. A few of these are, this was all supposed to happen before. Okay, everybody take a guess. Just take a guess. Okay. Okay, good. Right? So I gave, these were all correct. Easy start. Yeah? But really the correct one is that all of these are. Yeah? Okay. So, second question. The foundation of water accounting is what is the foundation of water? Everybody take a guess? Yes. It's not plutonium. Okay, there are similarities between a bank account and a water balance. True or false? So, yes, the question is
water balance
take a guess. Okay, very good. Very good. So it's true. They're quite similar, right? A water balance is quantifying the water cycle.
Water balance
Now, if everybody votes, even when there's time left, it'll go right to the results. So everybody vote. Okay. Good. Okay. This is true. So the water balance is all about just quantifying the water cycle. Okay. Conservation of mass states that. Okay. So don't forget about storage, right? I'm not sure about it. Okay. In a water balance, a flux is Okay. So I'm really happy that no one thought a flux was a scary thing. There's nothing scary about fluxes. They're not scary. But what is a flux? Right? It's a flow from either outside to inside or inside to outside by domain. Right? Okay. So that's a flux. Okay. Next one.
If you're gonna get a find out. Dig.
So I think if everybody answer this one, this is an easy one. Oh,
Yeah.
not as easy as I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody answered though. That's good. Is this true or false? Yeah. When we define our domain, we can't just think of the bird's eye. The bird's eye, when the bird looks, all they see is the top. We have to think of, right, the vertical.
Now like and a good 3D level.
Okay. The going is good. Examples of fluxes include
CCM တွေပါလေရှိတယ်
Okay, so see, I gave everybody credit for this one. But really, the right answer, right, is that, yeah, all of these could be fluxes. Yeah.
Put on now mà dọn lên trên.
Okay, so here's the harder question. What is missing from this list? What are we missing in terms of changes in storage? There's something missing from this. What is missing? Yeah? So we have reservoirs, we have lakes, we have soil moisture, we have snow and glaciers, so we're missing groundwater, right? Groundwater storage can change, okay? But the right answer here really is all of these, okay? And I am understanding things so far. We be very honest with this.
Everyone goes red.
Everyone, no, be honest. Okay. So we do not have a normal distribution. That's good. We're skewed to the right. That's good. I like this distribution. I'm sort of sad about the two. It's okay. We're going to pull this way.
Yes.
I think that's it. Okay. Is it at this table there?
No, not that.
Did you win all three?
No, PLO did again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but who's on the?
Oh.
Okay. Good work.
Thank you.
No, it's just but I want to be very clear so far. All of the winners so far have been in the front row. So if you want to win tomorrow, you come early. Sit in the front row.
So far, so good for home.
That's a perfect correlation between sitting in the front and winning. Okay. So congratulations to you, Josh. All right. So yeah. I'm going to hand it over to would it be good to, I'm sorry for taking so much time, but we have 35 minutes. You rather do the water sufficiency or the basin one, or kind of go through both?
I will just quickly go through the book, but I will try to quick.
Okay.
Because the Jordan diagram is complicated, they can read in home.
Yeah. All the
So I'm back again. I hope you are not feeling sleepy. Or are you feeling sleepy? I think that will be great or something like that.
Yeah, at 2 o'clock.
Good. So,
No, sorry. Yeah, I think we have,
how long?
3 o'clock.
So, I hope we are not confusing you. Are you getting the things that we are trying to explain? Is it going well? Or you think, oh, these people came and then talked about machine, stocks, inflow, outflow, evapotranspiration, so many complicated things. And it's not making sense to you. Or you think these are making sense to you.
I think they did good on the caboose, so I was like,
Yes, I don't need to explain you what a basin is about, right? So we talk about sometimes at much lower scale, we talk about watersheds, but when we go at a bigger scale, we talk about river basins or river sub-basins. It can be a very small basin, it can be a bigger basin. So, how many of you basically have heard this word, river basin? It's widely used these days, right? Like in many countries, they have also river basin authority. Your water office is divided based on the rivers. It has advantage as well as disadvantage. Advantage, then you know, technically it has many advantages. Then you look from the basin perspective. You have one hydrological set. You can do analysis easily. But from practical side, your river basins and your political boundaries, they do not match. Did you get what I'm trying to say? Like your province boundary, in Myanmar you talk about province, like you have country, province, township, districts. No? These are the political boundaries. But the political boundary and the river basin boundary, they don't match. Do they match? No, they don't match. So sometimes, you know, when we try to, in many countries, or even people talk about this IWRM, Integrated Water Resource Management, they also talk about, okay, we must have a river basin authority. It's one office that will look after that river basin. Yes, I mean, we agree that, you know, it's very good from hydrological perspective, from technical perspective. But from practical perspective, I know, as I said, you know, it has some difficulties because your river boundaries and your other political boundaries, they do not coincide. Because your other government offices are based on your political boundary, right? You have a mayor or you have a city council based on your other boundaries. You don't form a city council or town council based on the river boundary. So sometimes there is also a problem. But the river basin scale analysis help you to understand the dynamics within the river basin, and then you have to feed that analysis of the basin to your township, to your other boundary. That is the way. But I have seen in some countries, some places, your river basin boundary and your political boundary, they sometimes match also. that is the best. So let me. This is a very complicated diagram. Do not now think too much about this. This is about lower Jordan River basin, and so do not be afraid of this more complexity here. Okay? But this diagram basically shows how many elements would be there in a water center plant. Right? So this is Dead Sea. I think you have heard about Dead Sea. It's a very interesting place. Even a person who cannot swim can go to Dead Sea. He can just go. It's too much salt. So, and perhaps there are not any living animals, so they call it Dead Sea. So you can see, in 1950. So simple, right? You have a very big, you have a river, and you have very less amount of water used. And there you can see, I think, anyway, looks like the headless are not much clear. I know. I thought maybe some problem in my eye. Anyway, but what you can see is in the past you have this Jordan, it's a Lower Jordan River, and then it's a Dead Sea. Basically, there is not much actually activity out, not much water extraction in the 1950s. So in the 90s, if you come to 2000, look at this. How much the river is now reduced, and there's a lot of water being extracted, and you can see from the different sectors how the complex is. If you remember, in the morning I mentioned, why we need to do water account. If you have enough water, no problem. In 1950, the Jordanians never thought of water accounting. They were happy because they don't have much use. And there was a river, so everything was fine. Even people did not, even I don't think there was a term called water accounting. And now, look, 2000, how many sectors are drawing water? Principally, your inflow is same, isn't it? The amount of water it is entering is same. But look now the diversions. How many sectors are now taking away the water? Large part of water is already taken here out, and then only this much is available, and that also you can see here. How many sectors, how many hectares irrigated, or then industry, then so many complex. Right? How you manage this? Either you don't manage it at all, that's not the solution. Right? So, what you have to understand now these dynamics. How much water going where and how much saving, all these things, what is in cost, what is the domain here. Right? This is the domain here. It's lower part of the, so what is the influx, what is the outflux, and then what is the use. So all these details you have to make analysis now and put it in the table. But in 1950s, even maybe your calculator will do, because there are only few uses here now. Few uses, and that's it. And the river was still very big, and then river was also very clean, blue water. But here your river is also very much already polluted, right? And you have small water, living Dead Sea, and also you have so much complex dynamics going on. Now, do not be so worried about this complex diagram. What's the end of the training session? You exactly try to figure, be able to figure out actually what this arrow means or how this works in one simple table form of water balance sheet. And water balance sheet is actually derived out of this one. How much water is coming, how much water is going, and that is your last result. This example is just to show actually, why we need to do water accounting, because of the increased complexity. So we need to do water accounting. Otherwise, why should we? If we are like this, no need. Basically. But no, we are not like this. We are now like this. So we need to do accounting. And then, in every river basin, what happens is, first we always think of development. We build dams, we build irrigation canals, we build the groundwater systems, build it, develop, and then after the main construction of the building process is over, then you will come, then you use it, no? When you build dam, why you build dam? To use water. After the development phase, then you utilize this. Okay, you start utilizing water. And then once you utilize water so far, it's not a problem. Then this is your water available. And then with time, maybe you have the water available up to this point only, and then if you further keep on using it, then at some point you will have no longer water, unless you add some renewable water in the system. So then comes your effective allocation, right? If you are still at the early stage of the development, you don't think much about the competition or allocation. As the demand of water increases, competition increases, then you have to have some allocation policies. Now, we are, again let me repeat, we are introducing this kind of slides, funny diagrams, just to make you familiarize with the ideas, the concept, the terminologies. So, now, water is scarcity. Everything we talk, everything we do is basically why? Because water is scarce. Water is getting less and less. We don't have enough water. And so all our actions are basically to address the water scarcity. So, in water scarcity, how you can solve the water scarcity? Basically, you have the first thing you can do is you just increase the supply. Okay? Like you need water per capita. If you have a nearby river with good water, build a canal, build a dam, and bring water. Finish. So one way is to build infrastructure, new infrastructure, and increase the supply to the system. That is always what we think, we engineers think, no? Oh, there is water scarcity, make a dam and bring water. But we have to be careful because these days you do not find new places to build new water. For example, if you have heard of one river system called Indus. Have you heard about Indus River? Any of you know about Indus River? It is one of the largest river systems in Asia. It starts near to the top of the China, sorry, Tibet, this area, west part. There is one place, in that area where three main rivers start. One is Indus, it goes down and it comes to the Pakistan. Another is Ganges, and another is Brahmaputra. You can see it in the map. They are more or less in the same area, and then later on, Ganges and Brahmaputra they mix just before they go to the sea in Bangladesh. But Indus goes this way. So why I give you example of Indus River? In Indus River, almost all the infrastructure is built. You cannot add even if you build a big dam, you cannot add any water now. So is there any chance to increase water supply from Indus? No. So you plus it because you cannot add any new water from Indus. So you have to change your priority, but you need water. Another is conservation response. Conservation, we all understand. Supply response is by building infrastructure and other things, which may be possible, but in many parts of the world, it's not possible. Because you cannot add any new water. All the dams are there, everything are there, all water is used. You cannot bring new water. Sometimes we call it also hard water, but do not take it in chemical terms. In chemical terms also there is hard water and soft water. But here I am talking hard water is a water that is being brought out of the infrastructure development. And soft water is the water that you generate out of your management improvement, your conservation improvement. So the second approach is you conserve the water resources. There are many ways to conserve water. First, suppose you reduce your demand also. That's also if you reduce your demand, you increase your water availability. For example, there is one very interesting data also. The amount of water that is used to flush the toilet has drastically gone down since 1970. In 1970, 80s, it used to take almost 2-3 times more water than we use today. That's also safe. So scientists are even developing already very water efficient toilet design to save water. And there was a talk also, like a pressurized water bath, which you feel very big amount of water coming while taking bath. In fact, it's not a big amount of water to save water during bath. So there are so many ways you manage the demand and also you conserve water. Like also when in urban area you flush a lot of water as a wastage water, you can basically again recycle that water, reuse that water. So that is also one way. And also there are also other local methods like large part of the water is basically the from precipitation it falls on the ground, and also you have some environmental measures. You go for rainwater harvesting, right? And then artificial recharge. All these are just the conservation response. Or in another way, we can also say supply side intervention and also demand side management also. And then also you have now the allocation responses. It's a bit strict measures. That means now you make your own calculations because you cannot increase the water in totality. You cannot increase water available. So what you do is basically is you make your analysis, you make your water balance, and then you make your decision. You don't make your decision, but you prepare the table for your policy makers, ministers or directors, because they are the ones who make decisions. Our technical job is to give the managers or the policy makers options. This is one option, this is second option, this is third option. But it is the policy makers who decide. So then you have to be sometimes very, very straight in your analysis, and then say, okay, now we have this much water, this many millions cubic meter of water would go to agriculture sector. We cannot increase beyond that. So maybe you have to change. Do not grow more rice. Grow other crop. Less, water consuming crop. But that will give the same economic return. So there are many other measures. You may have to change the, cropping pattern also. So, but allocation responsibility. You give bulk water. Okay, agriculture you take this much water in this season. Livestock you take this much water. Industry will give you this much water. And this municipality will give you this water. So you have to do. Chinese has done it, and then Chinese has done many things, of course. I think they have also done this kind of the allocation response also. But one good, why in many cases it worked, was they also give freedom. Suppose if you are a farmer, you all are farmer, you are growing some crop, and I come as an industrialist. Then I talk with you. You are 100 farmers, you give me your water, I give you money. For you farmers, fine, because after all farmers need money. So, though there is a fixed allocation, but there was also a provision to buy among the different sectors. So in China, many people who have agriculture allocation already. After the allocation, then you will have a right. Okay? Then you can sell your right. Many irrigation systems they sold water to the industry because they were getting more money from water, and they cultivate the other crops, which would need very less water. But there should be some allocation, and then there should be some tradable allocation also. You got my point. Tradable means it will come later on. It will be dictated by a market. It will also come here. Suppose if you have a say pump, you three farmers, you have a pump and your supply is fixed. If some industry buys your water, they give you very good price. Then you will not be agriculture. You will be agriculture, but you may have a say now a pig farm or a cow farm, which would require less water than actually doing the rice cultivation. So, but anyway, there are many interventions these days actually in response to the how to manage water better. So basically, you have a supply response, conservation response. I would also like add there also like demand management kind of thing. And here, of course, the allocation in the allocations also is basically the demand management side. Conservation is more on also the recycling, environmental issues. So these are the three ways you can manage your water scarcity. In many parts of the world, you do not have supply response. I gave you example from industry. You cannot supply more water from industry. It's already used. And though there is one, I think whether we have already used this word or not, there is one term you will come across, or we already use this hose basin. We will come about that word. Hose basin means all water is already used. These kind of basins are called hose basin. Like I gave you example of industry. It is already almost a hose basin basically. There is not much water left. There are many basins. But I think in Myanmar, still you might have some open basins. I know. And then water accounting response. Again, there are, some, I talked to you about three things. One is about supply side, one is conservation, one is allocation. And then, there is a lot of economics between these also. I gave you an example, like, okay, your allocation is fixed, but still one sector can buy water from one another, no? So, that also comes the economics, where you get more money. Shall I get more money doing agriculture, or I just sell water to the industrial sector? So all these come together in a very complex way, and that is how all these, all these water scarcity problems will be addressed or are going to be addressed. So when the solutions are there are basically three things that come into play. One is economics, one is social issues. Because water is also social good, not always human good, but water has some social value. And also, there are also some physical things. So, physical, economic, and social measures will be required. One example of economic measures I already gave you. And social measures, suppose among the farmers also, you can give your water to him, he can give your water to you. These are all the social changes that goes. So there are sometimes what happens is, okay, though the allocation of the agriculture sector is fixed, but sometimes there is a very high degree of water scarcity in domestic sector. Then the agricultural people may give some water to the domestic sector also. So it's like a social cohesion, social arrangement. And then of course there are say some economic factors also. So just to summarize, I would just like to, this was just to give you brainstorming three things. One is, compared to 50-60 years back, our water management is very complex. I show you one picture of the zone. That's why we need to do the proper accounting. The second is, we have this integrated river basin planning, integrated water basin planning, all these things because of water scarcity. Why do we water account? Again, for water, water scarcity, water is here. So, then what are the means we can address this water scarcity? Basically, three means. Alright? One is physically through dams, reservoirs, or whatever. One is through the conservation, and one is through allocation. Allocation means also the demand side. And there are also how to do it. There are physical ways, there are economic ways, there are this is just to give you the overarching issues on our water. In the next slide, I would like to again, are there anything you need? Any explanations or anything?
Number one is just a picture of the game. Just about Chalili, Malu, Nelly, Swedish down, no? Swedish down, Sia, you're out of to look at our facility, and also can you get here? Looking at the area, you look at the read and SCD and Amasi, Pinelli, the Pinelli Nadia, someone other bar to see them in Jordan Mega Pomali, Ayusama, you got all things that we saw only no chance of study, Mama Michigan, yeah, another Java and Java. But also, don't do get right without Yala, give it a game on, ခွဲအဲ့တော့မြေကြီးကဟိုလက်ဖို့အရောင်နဲ့ရှင်းပြတာဆိုတာဒီမှာသိကြတယ်ဟိုအရောင်ဒီဒီပြမဟုတ်တော့ဘူးဗျာနော်အောက်ကဥစ္စာတော့အောက်ကကဟိုပင်နေရောက်သွားတော့ဒီကြီးကတော့ဘာလို့မပြရဘူးလေနော်ဒါဆိုတော့အခုဒီလုံးနေတာပြတာဘူးလို့သူလူတွေစီးပွားရေးလူတွေဘိုးလိုနိုင်ငံရေးဘိုးတိုးတက်လာတာနဲ့ဗျာစိတ်ရတဲ့အပိုင်းတွေလည်းကြိုးနေတယ်နော်အခုဒီမှာဒီတော့လို့အဲ့ဒီဝါဒေတာတစ်ခုရဲ့တို့တဲ့အဲ့ကာလမှာဒီအဆင့်လုံးသိရှိအောင်ဒီကနေ့အရင်တော့တို့တက်ပြောင်းနေတယ်လုံးမှာလာတို့တက်ပြောင်းတဲ့လူတွေဒီနေ့အမှအခြေကြလာတယ်ဟိုဆုံးလုပ်ငန်းတွေတကူကြီးတွေတိုးတက်လာတယ်ပြရတယ်ဖြစ်လာတယ်တော့ digitalization လို့ဆိုရင်အသုံးချတယ်ဒီကိုကောင်းအောင်အသုံးချတဲ့အခါကျတော့အသုံးချဟိုလူကလည်းသုံးချမှာဒီလူကလည်းသုံးချအဲ့လိုဖြစ်တာအသုံးချရင်ချရင်လည်းဥစ္စာမှာဒီခါမှာဒီဘက်ကရေရနိုင်တဲ့အဆင့်နဲ့ဒီဘက်ကအခြေကာလနဲ့ဒီလို graph ဆွဲပြည့်တဲ့ဥစ္စာတဖြည်းဖြည်းနဲ့ပါပြလာအစောပိုင်းကာလဘုဒ္ဓဘုကာလပါတော့ဆိုရင်ရရှိတဲ့ရေအရင်းမြစ်ကဗီဒီယိုကပြန်ပြန်ပြီးတော့အသစ်ပြန်ဖြစ်သေးတယ်ဒီလိုသုံးတဲ့ဥစ္စာကနည်းသေးတာအဲ့တော့နောက်ထပ်ရေကထပ်တိုးလာတယ်တဖြည်းဖြည်းနဲ့ဒီမှာအသုံးချတဲ့ကာလ utilization သိများလာတဲ့ကာလရောက်ဖြစ်လာတယ်ရနိုင်တယ်ဆိုတဲ့အဆင့်ကြီးတယ်ဟိုလူချင်းတော့ရနိုင်သေးတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့နည်းနည်းလေးဘာလို့သွားလဲဒီလိုနည်းနည်းရှိတယ်အဲ့ဒီမှာအရင်အသုံးချတာသိများသွားတဲ့အချိန်ကြောင့်ဖြစ်လာတယ်ရေကဟိုသုံးသွားပြီဒီကသုံးသွားပြီတော့နည်းတော့နေရောက်နေသွားတဲ့အချိန်ကြောင့်ဖြစ်လာတယ် allocation ခွဲတန်းချပြီးတော့ခွဲဝေသုံးခဲ့တာတော့အဲ့တော့ဒီတိုင်းလို့ဒီနေ့မရဘူးဘယ်လောက်လို့ဘယ်လောက်လို့ခွဲပြီးပါခွဲတန်းချအောင်နော်အဲ့လိုဖြစ်တဲ့ဥစ္စာကဒါဖြစ်ရင်အဲ့ဒီရှားပါမှု scarcity ရှားပါမှုဖြစ်လာတဲ့အချိန်မှာကျွန်တော်ဘာလုပ်ပြီးဆိုတော့ဒါအဓိကဆိုတော့သုံးနည်းရှိမှာပေါ့နော်သုံးနည်းရှိတဲ့ဥစ္စာမှာနံပါတ်1အလွယ်ဆုံးလုပ်တဲ့ဒီတွေကတော့ဒီ supply ရေကိုထပ်ပြီးတော့ဒီဘလောက်များထပ်ပေးနိုင်တယ်အဲ့တော့အခုနမူနာဟိုတော့ဒီမှာဟိုအင်းကြီးကတော့ပြောသွားတယ်နော်အဲ့တော့ဟိုဒီပြုစုမှုပြည့်တော့ဒီလူကြီးဒေဂါမြေပရပါပုဂ္ဂလာပြေပေါ်အဲ့ရဒီပေါ်ဒီတော့ဒီပေါ့နာတယ်ဒီစားတယ်အဲ့မှာမှဒီအနောက်ဘက်မှာကပါကစ္စတန်ကိုဒီကဖြစ်စီဒီလိုပြောရမှာသုံးချတာဒါမှဒေကိုရောက်ထပ်ပြီးတော့ဘယ်လိုမှလုပ်လို့မရအမှတော့ supply ထပ်လုပ်လို့မရ supply လုပ်လို့ဆိုကျွန်တော်ဗမာပြည်နဲ့အဲ့ရနမူနာပေးလို့ကျွန်တော်ရန်ကုန်မြို့ဒီပေးတဲ့ကိစ္စရန်ကုန်ကလူကျွန်တော်သိကြတယ်ငယ်ငယ်တော့ကျွန်တော်ပါလေဂျိုးလူဟုတ်လားဂျိုးပိုက်ဂျိုးကနေမလာတော့တော့တော့ကားလုပ်တယ်ဟုတ်လားနောက်တခြားခက်တယ်ပေါ့စစ်စစ်ကန်ကျွန်တော်တို့ပြီးတော့ဒါပေမဲ့အခုနောက်ပိုင်းတော့ဘာလုပ်လဲအမိုးကြီးမလုပ်ပါဘူးအဲ့လိုလိုပြီးရေထပ်ပြီးလို့ကျွန်တော်ဒါကမလုပ်ရဘူးကျွန်တော် supply လုပ်ရရတယ်ဟိုပေးကြရရှိသေးတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့အဲ့လိုဒီအင်းပြလို့ဟာမျိုးမှကြာရင်ထပ်ပြီးတော့ဆွဲထပ်သုံးရရင်ရှိအောင်ဆိုတော့တော့ပြီးပြီအတိပြတဲ့အခါကျွန်တော်အခုခေတ်ကတော့ပါလို့တာလေချွေတာတဲ့စနစ်ဒါဆိုတော့ဘူပါပေးသွားတဲ့အခါကျကျွန်တော်တကယ်တော့အိမ်ကရေဆွဲလို့ဆိုဘောဆိုပြီးတော့ကန်ရအများကြီးကြာတယ်အခုတော့ကြာအောင်ကြည့်ပါလိမ့်မယ်ဟိုခလုတ်တော်မှာတော့မလားဟိုရှုပေါ့ရင်ဒီလိုတွေတခုဝါတော့ဟိုက်တယ်ဒီပေါ်တယ်ဒီပေါ်အဲ့ဒီရေကိုတိပြီးနေတာရေချိုးတာလည်းရေမချိုးတော့ဘူးရေပန်းနဲ့ချိုးတော့ရေပန်းနဲ့ချိုးရင်ဒီကုန်လာတက်တာပေါ့နော်အဲ့တော့ဒါမှလည်းဒါပြီးရှိရတော့900လောက်ပါတခါကြီးချိုးတော့โอเคဘယ်ဒီတော့လည်းတော့ဒီကိုဆက်ခဲ့ချင်တာအဲ့တော့နားတစ်ခုအဲ့လိုမရဘူးဆိုရင်တော့ဆုံးကြရတယ်ပတ်တယ်ဆရာဒီလောက်ပဲတော့ဆရာတို့ပြောတာပဲတော့ပေါ်ပြီဆရာတို့ကလည်းတော့ပြောရတယ်အဲ့မှာတော့မပြောအောင်ဆက်တာတော့ဟုတ်ပြီခွဲချပေးရစိုက်လို့ရဟိုသဘောဒီကလည်းတန်းတရားတော့ပဲဟိုစက်ကူတော်က50သုံးလို့စားတာလေခလဲလို့ပဲဖြစ်စီဒီခုနဲ့ရောက်စားတာဝေနဲ့ပဲလုံးမလားပြန်လဲမလားဆိုတော့စားပြီးထည့်ပေးတယ်သို့တော့စိုက်လို့ရတဲ့ဘားတွေခဏတွေ့တယ်လေသမားတွေပဲကြီးတာဒီလေအိမ်ကစေတဲ့လုံးဆိုင်တဲ့တော့ထွက်လာမယ်ဆိုရတော့က9တန်းလောက်မရတော့စက်ကူတော်လို့လဲလို့10တန်းရမယ်ဒီဟာကိုကြည့်ပြီးတော့ကျန်တဲ့ဟိုပုံဝင်တွေကခဏထားလိုက်ခါလို့ပြောတဲ့အခါကျတော့ဟုတ်ပြီလေသမားတွေပြန်တဲ့လောက်ပြီးတယ်ဆိုတော့သမားတွေဒီလိုပြီးပြီးဟိုကနေစက်ကူတော်ဘက်ကိုရောင်းစားလို့ဖြစ်ပြီးဟိုခလဲဟုတ်ခုနဲ့အဲ့လိုလုံးလို့ရတယ်ရှိပြပါပြောပါအဲ့လိုလုံးပါလားဒီ allocation လုပ်တဲ့ဥစ္စာတော့ခွဲတဲ့ကခွဲတဲ့တော့ရတာလေသူတို့မပေးနိုင်ဘူးလို့ဖြစ်နော်အဲ့တော့ဟိုအနေနဲ့တမိုင်းနေပြန်ပြောတယ်ပြောရအောင်လို့ဘောမပေးတာနော်ဒီမှာသွားပြီးတော့တရားဟောခဲ့ရတယ်ဟုတ်ပြီလားဟုတ်ပြီဘောရပါစေချောက်တာအဲ့တော့တော့ဆိုပြီးတော့ဒီမှာဟုတ်ပြီလားခင်ဗျာဟိုကပီတော့ကတော့သူ့ရဲ့အဲ့အမျိုးနှစ်ဖက်ကနေအပါဒီဟိုအပြစ်ပါရောဟိဒီပြစ်ပါတယ်ရောဟိဒီပြစ်တယ်အပါဒီဒီလူကြတယ်တော့ပြတာတော့ဒီကိအားကြောင့်မို့အခုဒီမှာ ဒီလိုလောက်ရဆိုလို့ဆိုတာလည်းပြောတော့ဒီအခုကခြုံပြောတာတော့တကယ်တမ်းဒီတော့ဒေတာဒီလိုဒေတာတော့အဲ့ဒေတာမှာရှိတဲ့ဒီဒါကိုဒီအသုံးချတဲ့ဒေတာကိုတိုင်းပုံပါစိတ်ဝေးကဥစားပေးလို့နေတာကဟိုဘက်ကစက်မှုလုပ်ငန်းလုပ်နေတာဒါမှမဟုတ်လည်းဒီလူတွေတက်ဖို့ခြေလေးသုံးဖို့ဖြစ်နေတာပေါ့နော်အဲ့ဒီကြောင့်မလို့တကယ်တမ်းဟိုလုပ်ရဆိုလို့ဆိုတာအဲ့ဒီဝန်ဒေတာကိုတော့အထိတိုးတက်မှုဒီတိုးတက်ဖို့ပြောမှုတော့ရှိပါတယ်အဲ့ဒါမှခဏဟိုစကားတစ်ခုပြင်ပြလို့ပြောတာပေါ့ဒီနောက်ဆုံးသုံးတာမတရားကြည့်သွားတယ်သူပေးနိုင်တဲ့အတိုင်းအတာကြည့်သွားတယ်ဆိုတာဒီ close လို့ခေါ်တယ်ပိတ်သွားပြီးဖြစ်တယ်ထပ်ပြီးတော့ထပ်တိုးလို့မရဘူးထပ်ယူလို့လည်းမရတော့ထပ်ယူပြီးဆိုရင်ဒီမှာဒီ balance တော့အောက်သွားတယ်ဘုံလုံးဒုက္ခရောက်နေရှိတော့ဥစ္စာတွေရှိတာအဲ့တော့ဒီကနာအစုံကပြီးတဲ့အခါဒီလူဒီပေါ့နော်ဒီလူတွေဝါဒေတာဆိုတော့ဘာလို့အဲ့ဒီလုံးဝထပ်ယူလို့မရဘူးကျွန်တော်တို့ဘာဒီမှာအနေနဲ့အဲ့ဒါကိုစဉ်းစားရမယ့်ဥစ္စာပါဒီဘယ်လိုဒီညဝန်းဒေတာတွေဥပမာပြချင်းညဝန်းဒေတာဘယ်လိုနေလဲဟာလားဟိုကျွန်တော်အနေနဲ့တက်နေပဲတူတာလေဆရာတို့ကပူပြီးကြပါမှာဟိုစစ်တောင်းမြစ်ဆိုလည်းတကယ်တမ်းဒီဟိုကတော်တော်ဖြစ်နေတယ်ဒီကလေးကတိုးလဲတိုးလေနော်အဲ့လိုဒေတာမျိုးဟာမျိုးနည်းနည်းပြည့်နေပေါ့နော်အဲ့ပြည့်တဲ့ဥစ္စာဒါမှမဟုတ်ဟိုအကုန်လုံးထည့်စဉ်းစားပါဟို social ဘိုင်းဆိုင်တာဒါဝေးရပြီမတူပါဘူးလေသမားတွေထိခိုက်ပါလားသုံးမှုသမားတွေထိခိုက်ပါလားအဲ့ဒါပြင်စဉ်းစားစီးပွားရေးပိုင်းဆိုင်ရာပို့ပြီးတော့ဟိုတစ်ချိန်ခိုက်တာမခိုက်တာဒါပေမဲ့အဲ့ဒီတဲမှာအနေနဲ့ဟိုတကယ်တမ်းတခြားဥစ္စာလည်းမပါဘူးပြောရအောင်မှာလည်းဒေတာပါလို့တော့နိုင်ငံရေးလည်းအများကြီးပါလို့ဆက်တာဒါကတော့ဘာပြောမလဲဟုတ်ကျော်ညာအနေနဲ့ကိုဘေးဦးတော့အဲ့ဒီလေကျွန်တော်တို့ဘာမှမနေစဉ်းစားနိုင်နေနော် Okay yeah
So,
yeah that's good
so thank you. Then,
yeah
Jeff, we continue further.
Okay, I think, thank you. We're going to rearrange things a little bit. Ruspo was going to continue. We'll do that tomorrow. Okay? So now we'll take a break. Yeah? You have some tea. Maybe, what we call it? Brain food. Have some brain food. Yeah, okay? And then we come back in 30 minutes. Well, I mean, it has 30 minutes. Do we need 15? Okay?